Okay, this is telling me that we are live. We got some Blakey. Let's see. It seems like the microphone is picking up what I'm saying, so that's good. Okay, sweet. I got all ready to go, and everything seems fine. I'll move my flowers a little bit. This way? For the record, these flowers were sent by the publisher, which is delightful. Apparently it was a bit of a challenge for the flower guy. I didn't know we had people who delivered flowers, but we do. And he found my house and delivered them. Do I remember how to do all these things? Y'all, I never do live. How do I know. As I block Wendy. I'm trying to at least thumbs up your thing, if not heart your thing, but I can't figure it out. This does pull up emojis, but I don't think they're doing anything. Yes, look. I did cover themed nails. Very excited about them. Yeah, okay, well, I guess we will start this pretty soon here. I'm really excited about this book. This is like, don't tell my other books, but I don't always still love a book by the time it gets released. Sometimes by that point I sort of hate it a little bit, and then I come back around to liking it again later. But this book I still really like. I had a great experience with publishing it, and I feel good about it. And that's not, everyone can make their own decisions on that front. You can hate it, that's fine. But, cat distraction. But I still really am excited about this book. I am super excited for everyone to meet these characters so I can write some more of my self-fan fiction about them. That's what I'm here for. Okay, let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Oh, this is telling me to guard my privacy. That's very sweet. Okay, I think that we will rock and roll. It is now the time that I set, so here we are. Blakey has turned around so you can no longer see her adorable sleeping face. But Ziggy's being kind of a bit much right now, so we may see her in the background soon. Okay, I'm Kris Ripper. This is Settle the Score. This is the moment where I go, like, which account did I put this under, and is it the correct one? But we'll hope that it is. I changed all the profile pictures, so now they're kind of all the same, so I can't tell. This is Settle the Score. I'm just going to do a little quick author reading of it. I will say the audiobook for this book is incredible. It's miraculous. I feel like I didn't write as good a book as the audiobook is because the narrator, Pete Cross, is really amazing. So if you are into audio, you might check that out. May have to request it in your library. Not sure. But let's just dig in to Settle the Score. This is a brand new book that I just pulled out of the box that's under my desk. Yes, that is where some books may be living in a box. All right, chapter 1. The monthly staff meeting, like every staff meeting, was stuffy, too long, and a waste of my time. The meeting stretched out like a vast desert of upbeat check-ins and catch-ups. By the time I'd started thinking maybe we were rounding third and heading toward the blessed relief of a well-deserved lunch break, my coffee, refilled right before the meeting for maximum volume and heat, had gone lukewarm. It was inevitable. Either you drank it while it was hot and tragically ran out mid-meeting, or you tried to ration it for the purposes of morale and ended up sipping something roughly the temperature of a bottle of water left in a car on a warm day, which was equally awful, but in the opposite direction. I was staring into my mug in peak desultory fashion when, wrapping up the exhaustive updates, Vix Black, my direct supervisor, whom I actually liked despite the fact that she worked in brand management, looked right at me as she began speaking. That couldn't be good. My 21-month stint at Innovations in Branding had been a matter of not drawing attention to myself and trying to turn, as I'd heard one of my colleagues term it, soap bubbles into hot air balloons. We handled brand development for a lot of mid-range companies ready to launch larger, longer campaigns, with a special emphasis on those that hadn't fully gathered all their social media into one cohesive package. I didn't do anything too complicated, mostly drafting press releases off one-page summaries and handling brand voice, once someone else had told me what the voice was supposed to be. I wasn't even good at it. My attempts at press releases, which should have been easy, were always too long, and the notes I got back were usually like, if you could just stick to the bullet points, Cleary, that would be great. Sometimes the great was underlined for effect. I'm assuming everyone can hear me and everything. I hunched low in my seat and did my damnedest to turn invisible. Maybe she hadn't really been looking at me. Maybe I'd imagined that. I liked Vix. She was that type of hard-assed with a heart of gold, old-school lesbian who always made me feel warm and fuzzy inside, like she was my fairy gay mother and I was her little queer hatchling. She was also the only other out queer person at the org, which aligned us in this silent, comforting way. Most of the time. Except now. She was talking, I did a little mental rewind to catch up, about a campaign one of our brands wanted to launch in June. Pride Month, she clarified. I sank lower in my office posh black chair. Would they notice if I just sort of slid under the table? The campaign for a client called Kendall Athleisure, because of course it was called that, would be focused on getting LGBTQI plus kids to play sports, complete with a rainbow version of the logo, a new line of blah blah. My brain fritzed out because, to be honest, whether it was TikTok trend water bottles, the next best-selling wristband to track your mood or your metabolism or your caffeine intake, I probably didn't give a flying flip. And most importantly, the campaign would need a figure to head it. Vix looked at me again. Maybe because we were the only queers in the room, but she couldn't be trying to land this thing on my head, could she? What were the bullet points for this project? Capitalist corporation that seeks to make more money, chooses audience it previously ignored while probably funding legislation against, pretends to do an altruistic thing while actually carbon offsetting a bunch of terrible things, plans to monetize activism while mainly benefiting the board of directors. How could I make that pile of opportunistic crap smell good? Not that I should talk, not with what I'd done, the damage I'd personally caused. Which brings me to the person I think is best suited to take on this project. Vix looked at me again, her gaze a knife blade to my throat. Please let me die suddenly, please let me die suddenly, please let me discover a self-destruct button and deploy it right. Des, you got this. Then everyone in the room cheered, in the annoying way that I knew was supposed to feel fun and supportive, like we were all in it together. That really just felt like pressure. This time when you fail, it'll be publicly. Again. Somehow Vix had interpreted my urgent, "Can I please talk to you?" as an invitation to eat salads in her office, which might have been okay, except the first thing I saw when I sat down across from her wasn't the salad, but a headline on a printout. A detached part of my brain noted the cyan in the printer cartridge was going out, while the rest of my brain focused on not running away screaming. Whatever happened to Orion Broderick? Just beneath that, the subhead, "Soccer legend in making retired early after his personal life became public." That was one way of putting it. Soccer legend in the making retired early after some absolute jerk-off college journalist decided to out him to the world for the sake of bullshit activist principles, was how I would have written it. Okay, Spill, what's troubling you, my dude? I cringed. Oh my God, Bix, don't say that. She smiled unrepentantly. You love it when I appropriate the lingo of the youth. A, that's not the lingo of the youth. B, it's from a few years ago. And C, you know all that and are still just doing it to drive me crazy. I flushed. To drive me, to make me, I forget what word we're using instead of crazy. Sorry. I'm using it to predictively antagonize you in a playful way. Yes. She gestured to the printout, then tapped it with her long gold nails. I talked with the client, and Orion Broderick fits the bill for this campaign. He's so perfect, I can practically see the marketing already. And the brand has a special interest in sports that haven't completely captured the national attention yet, which makes soccer an obvious contender. Besides which, it appeals across gender, and there's tremendous room for audience growth at all demographics. I frowned. My initial arguments forestalled by what seemed to be a self-defeating approach. They want the face of their campaign to belong to a sport that not everyone even knows exists. People know soccer exists. Americans don't know we have a pro league, I countered. Vix raised her unibrow until it became a pronounced V shape, black against her dark skin. You gotta admire anyone who could really work a unibrow. Plenty of Americans know about soccer, the entire southern continent, for example, and you, as another. I shifted uneasily in my chair. Did she know I was the one who'd fucked up Orion Broderick's life? Surely she would have mentioned it. Vix wasn't the subtle type. My dad was British, so yelling at me about my poor form was basically his love language. And I'm from Conquistos up the coast. We have a team. I know all about the Conquistos football club, she said, and LA has 2 teams. So our goal is to take a sport that hasn't become a fucked up mess yet and really nudge it in that direction. She tossed a folder to me. The CEO has a gay daughter. No, it's not a noble campaign to cure a disease, but I've talked to her, the CEO, not the daughter, and I think she's sincere. She wants to do something to help, and she's the CEO of a massive corporation, so this is what she's doing. Anyway, I believe the angle is not so much make soccer a fucked up mess like other sports, as it is cash in on a lower competition space and make it blow up. Soccer is perfect for this, and Orion Broderick, who has appeal beyond the sport, is the exact person we need for it. She tapped the printout again. Do you disagree? It's complicated was probably not going to be the right answer, though it was certainly the honest one. Broderick, before I ruined his entire life, had been a joy on the pitch. Top scorer, incredible athleticism, the kind of player whose cleats never seemed to touch the ground for longer than a second as he moved upfield. As famous as you could be in the American League Soccer Association, that was how famous Orion Broderick had been. Then I published that investigative report in the college paper, and suddenly Orion got more famous, though not for soccer, for being very publicly outed, for losing the boyfriend he'd been kissing in the picture, and then for losing the sponsorship deal he'd landed with a big fitness apparel brand, the kind with an iconic, internationally recognizable logo. In other words, he'd lost the thing that would have launched him into true sports celebrity. Retiring after that was only the inevitable consequence of the rest of it. When people saw Orion Broderick, they no longer saw a beautiful, talented athlete, arms raised and grinning from his most recent goal. No. Now they saw a grainy photograph of him making out with a dude, arms around each other. And I'd done that. It was why I'd quit journalism completely and vowed to never go back to it. I'd killed Orion's career and sacrificed my own as penance. The thing about how words couldn't hurt you was a lie. Words could and had hurt people. Words I'd written. And I'd never do that again. Vic sat back in her seat, not even picking up a fork. You've been hiding your light under a bushel, pal. A chin jerk in the direction of the printout. No, I haven't. I didn't. I don't. I lowered my eyes, glaring at that stupid headline. I didn't write that. No, but you wrote the original article, didn't you? I thought I was stupid. I thought it would be a good thing. The sport had a shit record for the guys, but times have changed and women are allowed to be out and play, and I just thought, the road to hell and all that, she suggested. It sounds stupid now, but yeah, I wanted to change the world. Shame heated my face. It was so foolish, and I thought I was being a fucking hero. The word tore out of me like I'd been waiting 3 years to confess my sins. This was, upon reflection, probably not the appropriate time for confession, or the appropriate confessor. Vix straightened up and started eating her salad. Moving on, she said after a few bites, during which I remained frozen, wishing I could click my heels together 3 times and be transported literally anywhere else. You're a bit wasted in the work you've been doing, so we're trying something new. The penny had dropped. It should have dropped before, but I hadn't put the pieces together. A new project, Orion Broderick. Me. No, you can't. I can't. Vix, I killed his career. It was a misstep. I could tell by her expression. Before she could swallow her bite of salad, I changed track. I just don't think I'm the right person for this account. Doesn't it bother you that every time there's something with even a whiff of queer in it, people run to you like you can rubber stamp whatever they do and automatically justify it? Or anything with people of color, like you're the arbiter of what makes all of these disparate communities buy stuff? Okay, well, I don't see my role as rubber stamping anything. I cringed again. And I don't know, would you rather they give something like this to one of those well-meaning but ultimately clueless straight people? Never forget the Skittles does Pride all in gray stunt. I still don't think they earned enough. I still don't think they earned nearly enough scorn for that. Agreed. And it's not that I don't take your point. That I'd like to be seen as someone who could do my job well even when it's not directly related to something gay TM? She smiled. I'm so happy that there are so many somethings gay TM that we even have to have this conversation. But that's not what I'm proposing. Then what are you proposing? How can you possibly want me on Orion Broderick? I heard the words as I said them and flushed even more, imagining all the different ways one could be on a hot, ripped soccer star. After a longer than necessary pause, Vix continued, mercifully not mentioning any outside interpretations. Do you think I picked you for this account because you're a queer-identified cis man? Seriously, Des? I sighed. Okay, no, I ruined his entire career. Doesn't that make me the exact worst person to do this? Don't take on more than what's yours, Buttercup. You did something that changed his career, but you didn't force him to retire. I lost him a sponsorship deal. She pointed a finger at me. The homophobia of the brand lost him a sponsorship deal, not gonzo journalist Des Cleary. You played a part, yes, but try not to take credit for an entire culture of toxic masculinity, I slumped, artfully. I had always been an excellent slumper. I could communicate at least half a dozen sentiments via my slumps, and right now I was attempting to get through to Vix that while I acknowledged the validity of her point, I also wasn't agreeing to the idea that I should therefore be the one to approach a guy I'd seriously wronged and ask him if he wanted a job. Was this supposed to be some kind of long shot at redemption? I couldn't be redeemed. It wasn't as if I could take back what I'd done or give Orion back what he'd lost. It's just, I still sort of think people should come out. Most of the time, when they're adults and have stable financial situations, I just don't think the way I went about facilitating that was ideal. But I'm pretty sure Orion Broderick has a very different opinion on the matter. So, she squared her shoulders and gave me the most uncomfortably long look someone I respected had ever given me. It made me want to crumple up like an article I never should have written and throw myself away. Why me? I finally asked, pitifully, when she absolutely refused to speak. Who would be better? Literally anyone who didn't do what I did? Is that true? It's been 3 years, and Orion Broderick went from being a star athlete to, if the story I'm hearing is correct, living in obscurity. Think about that, Des. This deal could give him the opportunity to get back into sports, even if not quite the way he was involved before. But he'd be part of it again. She shrugged. I don't know if you spent a lot of time in rural areas, but they're not exactly great for queer people. No, but He might want to live like that, I guess. And he still could, but with more options and more money. If you really want to atone for your sins, this deal could at least make a start on that. It's not going to be big sneakers money, but it'll be something. She shook her head. Look, you've been with us for almost 2 years. It's time for you to spread your wings. If you can't do that, it will be much harder to keep you on. I blinked at her, replaying her words, trying not to feel super hurt. Are you saying if I don't do this, you'll fire me? Oh my God. No, I'm saying that if you don't even try to do it, I'll be disappointed in you. I gasped out loud. That's worse. She leaned in. Des, I read that article. You have real talent, a gift for connecting to people's stories. It wasn't a hit piece. It was a very compassionately written for non-consensually outing someone. I grimaced and hid my face for half a second until she said her next words. What the hell are you doing writing press releases about how, aggressive hand wave, some sock company gave away free socks to everyone, helping clear litter off a beach? Can't hurt anyone doing that, I mumbled. I see. So you've gone out of your way to make yourself irrelevant. She sounded profoundly unimpressed with my logic. Well, in any case, I have some information on how to get in touch with Orion Broderick, and you have a job to do. Or you're going to fire me? Correction, I will not fire you. I will keep you working here under the terrible strain of my disappointment and give the job to some hipster straight guy. Oh my God, that's so unfair. You're emotionally blackmailing me with your threats of disappointment and hitting me right in the parental figure issues and your threats of hipsters hitting me right in my... it's not fair, Vix. No, but fairness is a myth, so what do you say? What could I say? I wanted my job. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to impress Vix. I thought she meant it when she said I was talented, and it had been so long since anyone had said that, it was almost painful to hear. I barred myself from journalism and ended up at a brand management firm where I was, at best, mediocre. I didn't love being mediocre, but at least I was in a role that I couldn't screw anything up too badly. Even if the loss of that dream, of making a difference, of writing something that changed lives in a good way, of getting a Pulitzer even, kept me up nights with a vape pen and a big bag of potato chips while binge-watching Catfish. But what if I die of shame? I asked, sounding every bit as pathetic as I felt. You won't. She smiled triumphantly and shuffled some papers together before clipping them and pushing them toward me across her desk. It's worth trying, Des. The worst thing that can happen is he says no. Or I die of shame. As it turned out, both of us were wrong. There were way worse things. I really can't tell if anyone enjoys this, but I'm just going to read one more chapter. Chapter 2. Vix had an anonymous source, a contact who knew where Orion Broderick lived. Sort of. At least, I had an address that Google, with all its satellites and creepy surveillance vans, could not find. Cold Snap Cabin, Route 4, Baker's Mine, California. A mere 6.5 hours from where I lived in, let's call it the greater Los Angeles area. In a 450-square-foot studio that cost more in rent each month than the 3-bedroom house I'd grown up in back in the distant suburbs of Conquistos, which was up the coast from LA and, not coincidentally, also where Orion had played soccer until I/cultural homophobia and toxic masculinity had destroyed his career. Would I have taken him living in the closet so personally if I hadn't been connected to the place where he was doing it? I'd never have known. I was way less likely to have a friend taking random photographs on a golf course one night when Orion was making out with his physical therapist in a Porsche parked under a clump of eucalyptus trees, though. You ever really want to go back in time and kick your past self in the literal or figurative nuts? Or was that just me? Whatever. I had a lead. Cold Snap Cabin. Baker's Mine. Since the last reported population of Baker's Mine was fewer than 1,000 people, I didn't think it could be big enough to hide a famous soccer player. When I asked Vix how she'd gotten the address, she went exceptionally cagey. Enough to make me wonder if Orion had someone on his end who thought he needed a fresh start just as much as Vix did. She probably didn't mention the fact that she was sending the destroyer of careers in to do the job. I know I wouldn't have. In any case, I did some math, estimated time frames, and figured if I left home around 8 in the morning, gave myself an hour to figure out where Orion Broderick lived, then 30 minutes for him to tell me I was a horrible person and to get lost, I could get home by midnight. Vix had given me a Starbucks gift card for caffeination purposes, which I used for the first time at 8:15 on a triple shot mocha and promised myself I would not overdo my coffee intake due to stress. Half an hour later, when I was roughly 7 miles away from my apartment and the mocha was just chocolatey seams in the bottom of the cup, I realized that my original estimate of how long it would take to get there might have been erroneously calculated for 11 p.m. when I'd looked it up, not 8 a.m. when I was actually driving it, therefore failing to take morning traffic into account. Crud. When I finally got to Baker's Mine 3 Starbucks stops later, I pulled into the first place I saw that looked like a welcoming port of yellow light in an increasingly gray day. The sign read, in bold black paint strokes, Miners Wash and Brew, a combination laundromat cafe, which, once I got over my knee-jerk snobbery, actually seemed like a pretty cool idea. You're sitting there washing and drying your clothes, and instead of twiddling your thumbs, you could get a cup of coffee and a pastry. I was debating between a slice of chocolate croissant, y'all. That's not how you eat a chocolate croissant. Too late to change. A slice of chocolate croissant. And some sort of raspberry tart type thing when a mostly raven-haired woman with a few streaks of white in her ponytail approached. A slice of chocolate croissant. These are things you don't notice while editing. I felt a pang of disappointment. I'd been hoping the super hot guy with the pink apron who was chatting with a couple of little girls in tutus would excuse himself to chat with me instead, but such is life. Since I'd had enough coffee to last forever, I asked for a recommendation and ended up with something called a cheese braid. I mean, even that sentence I would completely reword if I was editing this now, but it's fine. It's all fine. I'm on page 12. For me to only start finding errors on page 12 was actually a good thing. Ended up with something called a cheese braid. It looked, and to be fair, tasted like something that would have made Paul Hollywood's eyebrows perk up in that condescendingly surprised expression he got when someone's baking wasn't as crappy as he expected it to be. I thought about that as I stared out the window at this town, village, whatever it was, wondering what life would be like here for someone who'd once entered stadiums full of people shouting his name. Baker's Mine was wholesome. Do places like this really exist, except as the setting for a gruesome murder and all those true crime podcasts where they always went out of their way to talk about how, in tone voice, one horrible thing had changed the town forever? I was too messed up to be taking part in this Norman Rockwell painting of a village cafe, even if I could hear the rhythmic thump of the laundromat through the big archway in the wall, maybe because I could hear that. I was some flavor of terrible person, not the worst type of terrible. I didn't serial kill anyone or torture baby animals, and no one was going to make a true crime episode about how my sad childhood made me a murderer. But being a milder brand of terrible still wasn't great. Didn't make me deserving of sitting in this picturesque painting of a laundromat cafe. I was still the worst thing that had ever happened to Orion Broderick, and I'd, regretful voice, changed his life forever. Vix could say whatever she wanted about toxic masculinity, and I agreed with the critique, but when it came down to reckoning with the person I saw in the mirror, that dude had fucked up badly enough so I couldn't trust him in the wild, which was probably why I'd lost touch with my friends and limited my social outings to hookups. The cheese braid gurgled in my guts with way too much coffee as I stood to take up my dishes and ideally catch the location of Cold Snap Cabin from the nice lady at the counter. Time to find Orion Broderick, submit to the humiliation of him hating me, and then drive home. Hopefully before the storm hit. It was coming in from the west, so if I could start south before it got to me, I'd probably be able to dodge it altogether. I set my dishes in a wash tub and said, "Is there any way you can help me find someone who I think lives around here?" The woman, who didn't have a name tag, probably because in a town this size you didn't need one, smiled. "Sure thing. If they live around here, I know them. Who are you looking for?" Orion Broderick. He used to play pro soccer, and we know some folks in common, so I thought I might say hello since I'm passing through. This line of BS had also sounded better when I came up with it in my apartment. The smile wilted, and she glanced behind me at the door, then met my eyes again. Passing through, You've lingered quite a while for someone passing through, bud. Oh, well, I've never had a cheese braid before, so... It was true, which saved me from being a bald-faced liar trying to charm a woman into telling me how to find a dude who probably wanted nothing to do with me. But the whole thing was starting to feel pretty gross. I'd considered explaining about the campaign as sort of a, look, I'm not a stalker, I'm working, see, argument. And at least this project was actually a good one, not a bullshit carbon offsetting attempt or even a patent popularity grab. But I didn't think the proprietor of the washer brew was going to fall for my brand of charm. So instead I added, no baby, if you can't help, I should probably start home anyway. True enough. Would you like anything to go? Damn. I'd been hoping my extreme casualness would make her relax enough to give me a lead. I managed to smile and said, maybe a latte for the road. She nodded, though she was nowhere near as friendly as she had been. In reality, one, Cleary nil. I waved goodbye and left the shop. It was a hell of a lot colder than I remembered it being when I'd gotten out of my car, though I was definitely a wimp about the cold. Things got cold occasionally in LA, but not like this. Not so extreme and intense. Or maybe the word I wanted was enduring. You might get a chilly blast off the ocean that would cut through your hoodie, but this mountain cold felt like it wanted to freeze your toes off. It was a hungry sort of cold, and I was grateful to climb back in my car and turn up the heater as the first drops of rain began to fall. So much for my bright idea of avoiding the storm. Time to get done with my chore and get back to the real world, where I could languish in my irrelevance in peace. Hell, maybe 3 years would have made him realize how much he missed sports, just like Vic said, and he'd be eager to sign a contract to get involved again. That was at least possible. Having seen Baker's mind, it actually seemed more likely. Wouldn't anyone in his right mind want to get his life back after living in total obscurity for so long? Right, steady on, Cleary. I decided to look for the cabin instead of the man. I drove back to the only gas station in town. I might have reversed that when I wrote about it later. It's fine. Welcome to Ripper's session of post-publication editing on the fly. No card reader at the pump and a sign that read, pay inside, cash preferred. I fumbled around in my wallet and finally extracted a 20 I had tucked away for emergencies. At least it would get me enough fuel to get out of the mountains. More math in my head. Or, okay, it would at least get me enough fuel to get to the next gas station back in civilization where I could use a credit card. Inside, I stumbled upon a tableau that felt recognizable enough for me to veer off and carefully select a bag of peanut M&Ms while an older guy lectured a younger guy about proper cash handling procedures. I thought it was a mean employee situation until the younger guy said, Gramps, I know all this. You've been training me how to cashier since I was 5. It's different now that you're getting paid. I have literally been doing this since I was tall enough to see over the counter. I risked peeking. The dynamic had seemed aggressively tense to me when I walked in, but now it seemed affectionately tense. The grandpa clapped the younger guy on the shoulder. This will be your first time alone in the store. I just want to make sure the place doesn't burn to the ground. Gramps unrolled his eyes. I'll try not to give anyone change in a way that makes the shop light on fire, Gramps. Good man, Gramps replied. He gestured to me. Didn't hear you greet your customer. Because you were actively yakking at me when you walked in? He grinned, dodging the cuff to the back of his head. Will you leave me alone so I can do my job, please? Sure. I'll only be gone 15 minutes now. Take your time. Gramps grunted as he went out, nodding at me and casting a last dubious glance at his boy. I added Funyuns to my road snacks and picked a Fanta out of the case on my way to the counter. Since I doubted the younger guy would actually prefer cash, I pulled out my credit card instead, which he did seem just slightly relieved to see. Win for both of us. Rough first day? I asked. He rolled his eyes. You'd think he'd know I could do this job right, but no, he's acting like I've never been behind the counter before. You want anything else? Raffle ticket? Some cool prizes this year for the Baker's Mound Social. Is it for a good cause? I guess so. It's for the music program at the middle school so they can get a teacher in there more than once a week. He waited, not ringing me up yet, eyes bright and expectant. I support the arts, I said. Give me 5 raffle tickets, but you can keep them yourself. I hope you get lucky. Hey, thanks. One of the prizes is an electric guitar. Wouldn't that be cool? Totally. You know how to play? No, but I could learn if I had a guitar. That's very true. Can I fill up on 2? Sure. Come back in for your card. Right. Small town / village. You just leave your credit card with the kid at the cash register while you pump your gas. Like that was in no way completely bonkers. It did mean I could put off my nosy questions for another couple of minutes while my new friend was contemplating his future as a rock star. Did teenagers want to be rock stars? It felt like forever since I'd been 15 or 16, and all I'd ever wanted to be was a journalist. I finished up and went back inside, pretending to casually remember a question I'd actually been rehearsing the whole time. Oh, hey, do you have any idea where Cold Snap Cabin is? My family stayed in it once when I was a kid. My family stayed in it once when I was a kid, and I thought I'd drive by the place since I was up here. Abject lie. It was time to lie and get the job done. The hell with my scruples. He blinked. Wow, you knew the Tuckers? That's lit! You knew he was some kind of movie star a million years ago, right? My mom used to clean the cabin whenever he and Mrs. Tucker were coming up to use it. Cursed past me for not looking up who owned the place before Orion. I made my face vague. I was pretty young. I just remember the name of the cabin. No idea where it is. It's out Route 4, he said, pointing back down the main drag toward the cafe. Okay, I did it. Okay. Maybe 5-10 miles. I only know because we pass it when we're going up the hill to the snowboard. The turnoff is on the right, but it's easy to miss, so look for the sideways triangle made out of little reflectors on a tree. Red ones. He held his fingers up in a circle bigger than a quarter, but not by much. The door at the other end of the store opened, and the kid called, Gramps, would you say the old Tucker place is 10 miles away? This guy's looking for it. I half-turned, but Gramps was clearly not going to be as easy to hoodwink as the kid. His brow was furrowed. His old man's spidey sense was pretty obviously going off. Just thought I'd drive past, I explained. I stayed there once when I was like 5. That right. His tone had no inflection. He was not impressed with my lie, but not quite ready to call me out on it. Yep. Danger, danger. I plucked my card out of the kid's hand and waved cheerfully, making my escape before Gramps could think twice. Thanks for your help. Hope a raffle ticket hits for your guitar. I got out of there as fast as possible, using all of my willpower not to look guiltily back over my shoulder. I hoped the kid wasn't getting in trouble for basically pointing me right at Orion Broderick. He didn't know that's what he was doing, I thought at the old man. Oh well, done was done. I found Route 4, set my trip odometer to 0, and started scanning the trees for triangles. Okay, yeah. Thanks for watching. If you want to buy or check out Settle the Score, I will throw some links in the thingamajig, and I think that's it. Yeah, happy release day to this book. That's all I got. Thanks for coming, everyone who came. Special thank you to Wendy, who is always so supportive. Yeah. All right. I have a house full of sleeping animals. I'm going to go eat some celebratory ice cream now. Thanks so much. Bye, y'all.